Catalyst, a person or thing that precipitates an event and triggers a vast increase in the rate of progress. Over the last 10 years, Spokane, Washington, and the Inland Empire have experienced a rate of growth that has never occurred in the past. As a native growing up in a family of developers, I have always been intrigued by our city and the people who are responsible for our growth. Up until now, there has never been a voice of progress and development. Catalyst. This is the place where you will meet all the players responsible for the growth and development of our beautiful cities and this region. This is not just another local podcast. This is the Catalyst. And I'm your host, Bruce Van Cott. Welcome, Spokane. This is the Catalyst podcast. I'm your host, Bruce Van Cott, and this is episode 6. We have Chad White with the Chad White Hospitality Group and Matt Goodwin with the Goodwin Group here today. We've got a great podcast, great show for you guys today. Both these guys are experts in their field here in the restaurant and hospitality, bar, brewing businesses. And today we're going to dive into, the backgrounds of these guys and really, what does it take to be successful in the hospitality business? So how are you guys doing today?
Doing all right.
I'm doing fabulous. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
How are you doing, Bruce?
I'm doing great. Good. I'm doing great. We got Brickwest, the beer here, so our new sponsor, right?
I appreciate the plug. We'll talk about that after the show.
Okay. Awesome.
There's a financial.
We'll figure that out. We got another brewery here with TTs. We didn't have the beer today, unfortunately, so we've got some whiskey we're drinking. The beard
instead of the beer.
I got it wrong.
The memo is off.
Damn autocorrect on that text message.
We'll talk about my listening skills later.
Fair enough. Well, let's start with you, Chad. Let's tell us a little bit about your background. So you've got TT's barbecue and brewery. You've got High Tide Lobster Bar. Mm-hmm. You've got the ceviche place. It just moved, right?
Yep, Zona Blanca. We're under construction currently.
Okay. And then you guys just rebranded what was Zona Blanca, right? You're doing, is it meatballs over there?
Yeah, so kind of a
Steel Barrel.
A mixture of it, right? So Steel Barrel Tap Room is where Zona Blanca existed, right?
Okay.
We were a ceviche bar in the back of a dive bar.
Okay,
right?
cool.
So very kind of Portland-esque, right?
Yeah.
It's a new style of dining environment, but that little 400 square foot restaurant turned into a nationally recognized restaurant in a matter of a couple years.
Wow.
And from that, we were able to birth a restaurant group and grow our concepts around the city. And most recently, we've moved from Madison Street, which is where Zona Blanca was at, in the Steel Barrel, which is the meatball concept now.
Okay.
And we've moved to Howard Street in the old Rocket Bakery location between First and Second.
Yeah.
And so we're really stoked to continue the cool work that we've done in this city, providing more culturalized food, which is exciting.
Is that the James S. Black building that you guys are in?
It is called the Holly Mason Building.
Oh, the Holly Mason building. I'm sorry. That's right. That's Chris Patton and Bobby Rhett's place.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
That's
you
right.
just had them on the show not too long ago.
Yeah, it was a good show. So give us a little bit of your background and how you got into the restaurant business.
Yeah, so I grew up here in Spokane, born and raised.
Okay.
I joined the Navy on 9/11. I had no idea really what I was going to do in life. I was always drawn to art. My grandmother was an artist, but art's not exactly
Doesn't pay the bills.
Position in the Navy,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And the job that I qualified for was to be what they called back then a mess specialist, aka a cook. But the cook has a two-part job. One part is culinary management, and the other part is barracks management. So we manage the Navy hotels, all of the officer quarters, and so on and so forth. But I really fell in love with food. And I think I fell in love with food because of all the art that I did as a young man with my grandmother. She was an acrylic painter, an oil painter, did a lot of crafts, and she would build, she had an urn or a kiln in the garage, and she would build these really rad ceramics and hand paint them and sell them. And so I got to help out with a lot of that. And then my uncle was, he restored old vehicles. And so I learned how to pinstripe and paint and airbrush vehicles. So all of that kind of translated into art, right?
Sure.
Naturally as art. And then I became a cook, and I found a way to bridge the gap between art and food. And so for me, food is art. And when I left the Navy 5 years later, I took an opportunity at the Hotel del Coronado and worked under some very talented chefs. Learned a lot about culinary leadership, management, went into corporate hotels with Hilton and DoubleTree hotels. And then a couple years later, I opened my first restaurant called Sea Rocket Bistro. And that's really kind of where I made my mark in culinary arts and getting known. I was on Bizarre Foods with Andrew Zimmern on the Travel Channel. I, from there, opened up a couple other restaurants, one called Craft Pizza Company, Comun Kitchen and Tavern, and then La Justina in Tijuana, Mexico. And so I lived across the border as well, really immersing myself into the culture before going on Top Chef, season 13, and then moving back to Spokane and opening up Zona Blanca.
Nice. So tell us a little bit about Top Chef.
Wow. Top Chef is a, one, it's an honor, right?
Sure.
To even be able to make it on national television is a pretty cool opportunity. But it is, it's a little different than what you expect it to be, right? We have celebritized chefs, and they are gods in a lot of us cooks' eyes. And all I wanted to do ever was to be on a TV show and own my own restaurant, right? And after having those things, I'm still excited about shows like that, but probably less excited about reality cooking shows because, let's be honest, I think all of us figured this out, at least at some of our ages, that reality TV is not reality. A lot of it is there's a plan in place. But I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about quick thinking, creative thinking, and got to size myself up against arguably the, 16 best chefs at the time that were picked by Bravo TV. When I first watched the TV show back in, 2003, 2004, I recognized that there were people on the show that should have never been there. And our season, any single person could have won that season. I mean, there was multiple people there with James Beard Awards, working for people with Michelin stars. I felt like the underdog going in there, owning 3 restaurants at the time.
Wow.
So it was just really a humbling experience, an exciting experience. But it was wild. I mean, there was times where we just spent 8 hours to 10 hours in a day being interviewed.
Really?
In a dark room, so it was very different. And talking about yourself on camera about like what you've done good, which is a little easier, although I feel like I'm somewhat humble, than talking bad about what you've done or admitting to the fact that you just, for lack of a better word, shit the bed.
Absolutely.
So
how'd you fare on the show?
I think it did pretty good.
Yeah.
I was in the top 10.
Nice.
I feel like if it wasn't for my frustration on a few things, I may have gone a little bit further, but you can't bite the hand that feeds you, if you know what I mean. And I made kind of a goofy mistake of putting fancy things on a beefsteak challenge. So you should see it. I mean, the best episode was the episode that I got. It was a redemption episode that I didn't win, but it's called The Bloodiest Battle Ever on Top Chef, and it's Last Chance Kitchen. And so the challenge that I got sent home on was this idea of a beefsteak challenge. The beefsteak challenge means that you don't have utensils. You have to eat with your hands. And it's supposed to be like pick up a bone and, eat a rack of ribs or this giant like Flintstone sized piece of meat with your hands and eating mashed potatoes with your fingers and
my kind of food.
Wearing a bib. Yeah, perfect, right?
Yeah, sounds wonderful.
It's like give me a 6-pack of beer and let me eat with my hands, right? It's like a picnic. So I made it a little bit too fancy and got sent home. And then the redemption round was that they rolled this giant cart of meat out, and I had to go head to head against Jason, who was the chef from M-Bar in Seattle. So we're both Washingtonians, right?
Nice.
I don't even know why I just said that. I feel like that word's been banned.
Represent.
Washingtonian, I think, has been banned.
Jay Inslee will appreciate the use of Washington.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, I apologize on behalf of everyone in Spokane. So, they rolled out this cart of meat, and I chose the cow head, the whole cow head. And so maybe I was a little frustrated that got kicked off. So I made a chili, a Mexican style chili called picadillo, that had corn in it, and ground meat. And I made kind of this like chili, really dark, rich sauce, and I served it with beef cheeks. But the chili was made out of eyes, tongue, and cheek. And my favorite quote was, "Are you going to really make me eat eyes?" And I was like,
wow.
"Yep." Don't kick me off. And so it was a great experience. And the biggest thing is it paved the way for me to be able to go and find success on a much easier level. Right. So
absolutely.
I believe wholeheartedly that my hard work has gotten me where I am at today, but those doors opened and I walked through them.
Absolutely. So did that open, when you say it opened doors for you or kind of paved the way, did that help you with, financing and going in and meeting people to be able to partner with on projects, or just getting your name out from a marketing standpoint? Or
well, coming back to Spokane was kind of like this big thing, right?
Absolutely.
It's like hometown hero is back. He left to join the military. Now he's come back to Spokane. He was on Top Chef. The season aired the month I returned.
Wow.
I wasn't even
Perfect
in
timing.
Spokane for 2 hours, and I had 3 reporters on my little sister's front porch trying to interview me. Wow. It was a very interesting experience.
Surreal.
But because of that, it allowed me to be able to leverage my all of a sudden instant fame to get projects going. And so, you interviewed Bobby Brett and Chris Batten, and they were, my first group that I've worked with in the city. And I hired Chris as my broker, and Chris had a building, the Luminaria, which is where Zona Blanca and Steel Barrel were at. And I told him, I'm really trying to find something. And he showed me different properties all around town. We just couldn't quite figure it out. And finally he just said, "Dude, I love your passion. You're already working harder than most people I know, just trying to get this done. I'll take the risk with you." And he loaned me the money to open up Zona Blanca, and we opened up Zona Blanca on $40,000. And
wow.
In our first year, we did $400,000.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And
so it's exciting. I don't mean to like air my laundry out there, but just like hearing
people
that,
want to hear that.
It's just it's a great experience. And, part of it was just how much time and effort I worked there. We only had 3 employees, and 2 of them were underage girls, right? That were in high school that wanted to learn about culinary arts. And we worked side by side, and I taught them all the experiences and techniques that I learned. And they had no culinary background whatsoever other than, doing a pro start competition, but they had no professional experience. So we were just able to work side by side, and, we won, Best New Restaurant, Chef of the Year. We won Epicurean Delight, all these different things.
All
and I did this with
accolades.
these young girls that I couldn't do this before with, a brigade of really talented, high paid cooks.
Wow.
So it was perfect redemption for me after getting kicked off Top Chef to come out and be successful in this restaurant. And then that further paved the way. And now I'm on my 3rd project with Batten and Bobby Brett because they've seen the work that we've done.
And that's awesome. All your projects seem to be, art inspired. You're a wonderful chef. That's your background. Let's shift gears a little bit. Come over and talk to Matt here. So you come from a totally different background, and your business model is a lot different than Chad's over here. Tell us a little bit about your background. First off, you've got how many bars and restaurants right now?
We have 8 concepts right now.
8 concepts right now. And I love the term you use. It's the 5-star dive bar. And does that, at this point, it kind of fits all that other than maybe the brewery, right?
Yeah, for the most part. I can't make Kraft mac and cheese. I'm the exact opposite of Chad. I grew up as a front of the house bartender, front of the house manager. I was always the guy hosting the party and making sure everybody had a good time.
Absolutely.
As opposed to making sure the the product was top notch.
Absolutely.
Learned to make it good as it went along, but my expertise was in the customer experience.
Well, and that's what's awesome. So we got, back of the house, front of the house, and we get to kind of get the aspect, each
The
aspect.
funny thing is, about 2-3 months before COVID came, Chad and I were looking at a space to do something together. And
Really?
if COVID wouldn't have happened, I think we could have blown the doors off of this town, but
Agreed.
eventually.
Yeah, it could still happen.
We're still young.
We're still young, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into the bar and restaurant business, Matt.
Hopefully the really short version is in high school, I was a square. I didn't drink. I didn't smoke. No drugs. Nothing. ASB president kind of guy. Got to college and saw the light, and that all changed very quickly.
Yeah.
And paid my way through 6 years of college at no degree by renting houses where I could throw the best house party, running illegal casinos in my basement, hosting basketball tournaments where we would wager on which team was going to win, and I would rig it so I made sure that the books were stacked in my favor.
Nice.
And went to school to be a teacher eventually and realized that wasn't for me. And a friend said, man, you need to go get a job bartending. That's what you do. So I got a job bartending at Fast Eddie's in 2000. And we took a bar that was doing $20,000 a month. Within 3 months, we were doing $150,000 a month.
Wow.
90% of it was beer, alcohol sales. So
Wow.
realized I was pretty good at throwing a party and hosting a party, and tried to buy the bar from the owner at the time, and no idea what I was doing, no clue about money or finance or even what I'd hoped to make on it, other than I knew I could get a bunch of people to come through the door. So the guy I bartended with at the time, named Ray Wilson, and we bought a little bar on Sprague. It was called Irv's, turned it into the Pub Club. Super creative name, pub on one side, club on the other. And for the first year, we were breaking records for beer sales, booze sales, and also breaking records on how much money was flying out the door.
Yeah. Having a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. I was up at 6 a.m. every day, still drinking until trying to get to work the next day. So
Wow.
Then we opened up a live music venue called the Boulevard, which is where the Grand Hotel sits now. And that's when I started to grow up a little bit and understand there's a business to this as opposed to just a party. And then the city evicted us for eminent domain to build the Grand Hotel. Met another ex-business partner. We started Marquee Lounge, and that's when the party became a business for me, and maybe did a lot less of this and a lot more accounting and running books and making sure that the business were profitable. And from there, one thing just led to another to where I am now.
Well, I think I made up for your lack of partying at the Marquee.
Yeah, you
That was
helped pay
go.
the rent, Bruce.
I know.
Yeah.
That was a great place.
Yeah.
I love the Marquee. So what places do you have now? You've got the backyard. You've got press.
Yeah. So after Marquee, I realized that the nightclub life wasn't for me anymore.
Yeah.
And personally, I was gravitating. I like to hang out at pubs. I like to eat good pub food. I like a really great sandwich with a beer. So that's kind of what I geared towards. And all my properties now are kind of focused on that. So we have Remedy up on 38th and Grand.
That's my spot.
That's a great spot.
Okay.
Chef Rory's fantastic. Next to Sacred Heart, we have Press Public House, which is a cool little pub, and opened a Hawaiian barbecue joint next to it called Hang 10.
Yeah.
And downtown, we have Volstead Act Cocktail Lounge, which is very hyper cocktail focused. We have Brick West Brewing Company, which is a brewery. It's a brewery. We're making great beer. And
Great beer.
within our first year, we'll be the second largest brewery in the greater Spokane area. And we've won numerous awards and very excited about that. And kudos goes to our brewer, Sam. He gets all the credit there. We have Backyard Public House, which has become kind of a staple in Spokane. It's busy 7 days a week, 7 nights a week. Good pub food, trivia. We get business people during the day and we get college kids at night. And then we opened up Checkerboard on East Sprague, which is the oldest operating liquor license in the city of Spokane.
Really?
And
Wow.
then almost in Hilliard, we have a place called Barnwood. And up there, we're trying to elevate the Hilliard experience a little bit as far as food and dining.
Sure. Okay. So let's talk about brewing because you guys are both in brewing right now.
We both sell beer.
You both sell beer.
I don't know if either one of us know how to
Neither
brew.
of you brew, but let's talk about it from a business standpoint, right? Mm-hmm. So, Matt, on your end, you talked about your brewer. What's it take to put together an operation like that? Finding the brewer, pulling together financing, bringing the partners in. What is it? Give me the real deal on what it takes to do that.
The real deal is not something I think you can really quantify first and foremost. What I mean by that is I've put in a lot of work and a lot of networking around Spokane in order to have relationships with people that will sell my beer, that'll put my beer on tap, that will come down and support me. Chad, obviously you heard his resume and his presence in the city is huge.
Sure.
So people are going to seek him out. Where I'm going is I think we have a leg up on, and I'm not trying to pick on the average guy, but if the average guy that works at Napa, he could make way better beer than me and Chad could ever make, but people aren't going to seek it out to drink it. So not only do Chad and I both make a really great product, we have the marketing, we have the wherewithal, and we have the presence in the community that people are going to relate to it, know it, and drink it.
Absolutely.
And building the team, right? Making sure that you're finding the right person.
Yeah.
We have our brewer, Rachel Nally, is incredible, and she's worked with Oralson and Iron Goat, and now is with us. And Travis Tosaf started the brewery itself at Steel Barrel Tap Room in the Incubator Brewery.
Wow!
Right,
so you got to try them all. So he was one of the best.
Yeah, we met there.
Yeah,
and I loved his work ethic and his attitude, and it was just fun and kind of carefree, but a really hard worker. And he was a Frito-Lay guy. Like he'd worked there for 20 plus years.
Wow.
And he used his retirement to help us open up TTs out in the valley.
But to my point, if he tried to do that on his own,
yeah,
he probably wouldn't get the recognition that you guys have because he has you and your presence in this community to help push that beer.
And possibly you're right. I would say I fast tracked it.
Yes, 100%.
Right. Because he's just such a good dude, man. Like, I don't know. It's like anyone who meets him is like, oh yeah, he's just he's a good Joe. Right.
Sure.
But yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. We've had some opportunities. We've built an opportunity, should I say, for ourselves. And the result has been very fruitful. But we can't, he's mentioned his team, throughout the entire time and we can be the idea guys and we can put the work together and we have a name around town, but we still have to make good product.
100%.
Right? So I think that's the defining factor is it's not just one thing or another. It's the total package.
Yeah,
sure. But I would say, okay, so you're right. You need the total package. But when you look at, say, finding a brewer, there's people that, the Napa guy that can brew beer, and whether it's you doing the barbecue at TT's, which is probably my favorite barbecue in town, or whether it's you guys, your chefs that you guys got up at Remedy, or the partnering up with you guys down at Watts, putting all those pieces together is very important. But it sounds like what you guys both bring to the table, and tell me if I'm wrong, on the most valuable level is that marketing aspect, or that demand where someone says, hey, I've been to a Chad White restaurant, I've been to High Tide, or I've been to Boiler Room or Remedy, and I want to go check out what they're doing because I love everything else.
Marketing for sure. That's a must. But I'll take it even a step further than that.
Please.
Is that it's also in tune with what the customer wants.
Okay.
And like Chad, for example, he opened High Tide Lobster Bar, and I'm like, this guy's fucking crazy. Pardon my French.
In Spokane.
Like, who's going to open a lobster bar?
Yeah.
And guess what? He was in tune with it. He saw it. He got it, and it crushes it, right? And so I think Chad's probably similar to me. When we go into a neighborhood or a spot, we know what that neighborhood needs, what it wants, what we can offer different, what we can do better than competition, and who's going to support it. Even more so than marketing, I think.
So is that something that, like it's just you shoot from the hip, and you just as an individual happens to, from your experiences and the research you guys do, you're able to just, come up with that concept? Is that an individual thing, or is there a lot of work that goes into that? I think
R&D is really important.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
like going out and trying things, traveling.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? Immersing yourself in different cultures, in different cities. I don't always just want to bring something in from somewhere else, but if you can capitalize on that, and you can look at what what is the need in Spokane? You can ask the questions, talk to your consumers, and then go out and do the R&D and try the things. And don't just like pop into one restaurant and be like, oh yeah, I can nail this. But like spend the time, tasting your team on it, tasting the city on it, failing over and over and over again. Those are all parts of it. I mean, kind of like what you said, this guy's crazy. I think it takes equal parts like experience and equal parts batshit crazy.
I like that.
I used to use the saying of, I'm, 20% research and development and 80%, fuck it.
Really?
It's the ratio is a little different now.
Yeah.
As I've gotten older and I've made some mistakes and I've failed in the way I see it, I've failed up. Cause I've been able to pivot and recover and learn from my mistakes and not just bury my head in the sand. I do a lot less reckless investing or reckless, ideas, right? It's a little bit more calculated now. But there still has to be a level of risk. You can't be afraid to follow a dream or nail a new concept.
So tell me about some of those failures that you've had that have, helped you pivot and move forward.
Yeah. Well, financial is a difficult one. My first restaurant that I was a partner in was called Sea Rocket Bistro, and we did really well, but not well enough for me to be paid well while working there. And then we sold, and then all of a sudden I had a bunch of money in my pocket, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to double down. And I wasn't mature enough yet to double down. So I opened up a pizza restaurant and signed an agreement that I should have never signed. And then I opened up a Mexican kitchen and bar in San Diego.
Ooh.
Outside of Petco Park with, a $15,000 a month, mortgage, but lease,
That's
right?
a
My
big
pizza
lease.
place was $18,000 still, right? My lease ends, in
It's a
3
mortgage
months.
on an apartment complex.
Are you still paying that?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it hurts. I don't pay all of it. I have partners, but like I'm done with them.
Absolutely.
So, but that's the
forward.
biggest thing, right? Is really paying attention and taking your time and thinking everything through. Not everything is going to be exactly the way that you do it. And sometimes it's about challenging the people that you're going into business with, right? A lot of people look at, people who are investors may look at somebody and go, okay, great. This person has all the things that will make a great product, but has no idea about business whatsoever. And as somebody who is a people pleaser, I was nervous to say what I wanted and ask for what I wanted or demand what my value was, because I might lose the opportunity, which netted a much bigger failure down the road, right? And then I learned as I got older and done more deals that when I challenge a businessman, they respected me.
Absolutely. Bringing it.
And I thought it was the other way around. I was like, I'm just a punk kid that's, you know what I mean? Like, I'm a hassle to this person. They're never gonna give me the money that I want. They're not gonna trust me with it. But it was the complete opposite. So I signed contracts that I should never sign, and I went into business with people I should have never went into business with. And I closed a restaurant in San Diego called Commune, and it was a beautiful restaurant. We spent $1.5 million opening it. I thought I was getting in bed with the right people. But to what I was just saying, I didn't ask enough questions. I didn't pay attention. Everything was perfect.
Didn't read the fine print.
No. What? Fine print. I was like, where do I sign? Sweet. And then when the restaurant ended up closing, which my partners decided to close right when I came back from being gone for 7 weeks filming Top Chef, who was on the hook for all the food and the drink that wasn't paid? It was this guy who signed the personal guarantee.
Ooh.
Because I didn't know better. I was like, oh yeah, I'll sign this. We're not going to fail. I'm high up on the horse. I was a partner in a restaurant with Brian Malarkey. I was Chef of the Year by Eater, kind of a big award. The Seafood Maverick of San Diego. I just came off Top Chef. Like, I can't do anything wrong. I'm a white kid with a restaurant, a Mexican restaurant in Tijuana, Mexico, and the Mexicans love me. You know what I mean? Like, it was crazy to me. I was like, I can't do anything wrong. Oh, no, I could.
Yeah.
I could do a lot wrong. And so learning from those mistakes was really big. And even coming up here and learning from not giant mistakes, but just little things that I was more aware of. And when you go through those, you kind of become a little skeptical here and there. But that's another lesson in don't close yourself off to an opportunity because you have fear from what happened before.
Yeah.
Just educate yourself and know how to navigate through those little booby traps.
Okay. So, and talking about navigating, Matt, so when you're talking about shooting from the hip a little bit, Chad, and there's a ton of analysis you can do, Matt, right? But there's a certain level, I assume, where you start getting to this, paralysis by analysis. So how much of when you're going into, say, because you guys are going to a new market, Boise, right now.
Correct.
And you guys, you've opened so many different concepts in restaurants and you've got it down to a science, but things change. How much analysis can you really do? And what is that analysis versus just going in and saying, you know what, I believe in this and it's in, I feel it in my gut. I'm going to do this. Is there, you probably can't give me a percentage, but what's that process look like?
The easy answer is 50-50.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is I know my numbers.
Okay.
I know the restaurant numbers. I know what labor is going to cost. I know what food's going to cost. I know what beverage is going to cost. I know what rent should cost. I know what utilities are going to cost, right? And then I look at Spokane, for example. You can pick any corner you want. Tell me a concept that I could tell you pretty close what that place should do a month in sales if it's run correctly.
Okay.
I bet you Chad could have a pretty good guess, something similar. And then when you know your numbers, and you've done this long enough, you can do the math backwards and understand if it's a good move or not. We are looking at going to Boise. We've signed a couple deals around down there, and it is a little bit of a leap of faith. The economy is as good as any economy I've seen, so it's a little different, but it's the same process. We're buying the buildings we're looking at, so we know what our mortgage payment is. I know what it's going to cost to staff it. I know what the food cost is going to be. I know what the liquor cost is going to be. One thing I think Chad can attest to is restaurant people love to help restaurant people. It's a community, tight-knit community. We're rooting for everybody. So I just talked to a couple guys in Boise who own restaurants and have restaurant groups and have worked in the industry and got a pretty good idea of what Boise's about. And I think if I throw a dart at a dartboard, I think I'd be pretty close to the bullseye based on what we're going to do and what numbers we'll hit there.
That's awesome. So one of the things that you mentioned is that you like to buy your properties. And I think that's something that's a common theme with, everything you're doing right now. How important is that to you when you're opening a new restaurant to be able to buy the property versus lease?
Now it's very important. When I was young and dumb and signing leases blindly and didn't care, I didn't care at all. I didn't want to put the money into buying a building. I wanted to put the money into making the biggest badass nightclub you've ever seen in Spokane, right?
Absolutely.
Marquee. But our rent was $16,000 a month in Spokane, which,
oh my God,
if you know Spokane,
I thought that was crazy at $15,000 in San Diego.
Hefty number.
Yeah. Well,
that's got to be a record for a bar.
7,000 square foot, 6,000 square foot. The Marquee,
almost 9,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Craft Pizza is 1,800 square foot in a food court in a mall next to Panda and all those other places.
Wow. And I think I hung out in every square foot of that the market. I remember it.
But to answer your question, owning the real estate for me is now a hedge, right?
Sure.
Real estate prices, take COVID out of it, I guess. I don't see going down very much, especially if you have a successful business in a good location. So even if something weird happens and the restaurant doesn't make it, if I own the real estate, I have a tangible asset that I can sell and hopefully own the real estate going forward. Where you buy restaurant equipment, you're $250,000 going in. The day you open, that stuff's worth $30,000.
Yeah, wow. You don't have an exit strategy.
Wow.
No, there isn't. Yeah. No.
If you own the real estate, there's an exit strategy.
Yeah, correct.
Chad, what are your thoughts on that? Because I know you've done some pretty cool leases on some good buildings. You've partnered. What are your thoughts going forward with that?
Someday I'll grow up.
Someday you'll grow up.
Now, I've leveraged relationships and the money that I've made from the businesses to help build more businesses. And Absolutely. As I get to a point where, capital is more readily available,
Absolutely.
my next game is to purchase real estate, and I'm taking some leadership. I'm given leadership by Batten in that area, and I've reached out to him and said, listen, I don't want to lease forever. I want to start owning buildings, and so any advice you have in that area, whether it's something that we can partner with down the road, or you can give me some insight on how I can get to there, right? And I'm not looking to own a whole building. I'm just looking to get pieces and then eventually get down the road.
And it's funny too. I've never thought about the similarities with Chad and I here, but when you're in something and you're great at something, you're focused on that, right? So Chad's completely focused on being the best chef he could possibly be.
Absolutely. And he does a great job.
And the best. And having a great customer experience as well, where I'm focused on the great customer experience and having good chefs on board. But we're so focused on the restaurant, it's hard to learn the real estate game or understand it, right? So he's working with Bobby Brett and Chris Batten, and they're going to take him a long ways in the real estate game, where your other guest, Jordan Tampion, I've partnered with him. And there's no way I could own the real estate or do what I'm doing
Absolutely.
without that partnership I have with Jordan Tampion, because I'm so focused on the restaurant game, I don't get the real estate game. I haven't learned it. I haven't become an expert in it. And that partnership has allowed me to dip my toes in the water there a little bit.
So it sounds like, a common theme for the guests that are listening. If you're getting in the restaurant business, it sounds like you've got to have a skill of some sort, whether it's back of the house and, making the best food you can possibly make or whether it's front of the house and creating the best experience. And it sounds like, I know both of you guys have, each of those aspects, but then being able to find, like you've talked about, the right teams and partnering with people who can come in and really make those projects a little bit more, financially stable or hedged a little bit better.
And I think most people who are just starting into the restaurant game, whether they're a chef or a server or a bartender or somebody who is a home cook that Jim, Joe, Sally, and Karen have told you a million times that you should open a restaurant. The part that I don't think a lot of people understand is the amount of work that gets put in.
Absolutely.
Right? And you have to be somewhat of a masochist in a way, right? Like you have to love the hard work. I wake up at 3:30 every single morning. I go to bed 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. Some people would say that's not enough sleep. I wake up before my alarm clock every single day. Not in a panic, not worried that I'm not going to get my work done for the day. I'm just very, very driven. And you have to love to work. And this industry will eat you alive if you're not willing to do that. Now, you should work smart and not over hard.
Of course.
But there's going to be some years where you're going to have to go to bed after
2020.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but some people didn't.
No, yeah.
Some people saw
and they're no longer, and they're not here anymore, or they won't be,
or they're in trouble.
Unfortunately, yeah.
It's difficult. There's a lot of times where, how many times you've been kicked in the teeth and you're in this industry?
Once a week.
Yeah, and you gotta love it, right? It's like you have to be a boxer, right? Whether you throw a punch or not, you got to be able to take them.
Absolutely,
right? And it definitely takes a certain person. I don't think the restaurant industry is for everyone.
It's not how many punches you can take. It's how many punches, or it's not how many punches you can throw. It's how many punches you can take and get up. Right?
Yeah.
It's my Rocky quote for the night. So let's change gears a little bit and talk. Speaking of 2020, let's talk about COVID. And, it's had a huge effect on Spokane and restaurants all across the country. But tell us a little bit about what you're doing to deal with COVID right now. I know you guys have partnered up on what's the restaurant coalition you guys have partnered up on?
Spokane Hospitality Coalition.
Spokane Hospitality Coalition. So tell me a little bit about that, Chad.
Well, so Spokane Hospitality Coalition came about by business owners such as Matt and I and Mark Starr from David's and Jeremy Tangen, like coming together and just asking questions like, how are we going to survive this as a restaurant industry, right? And we understood that the questions weren't going to get answered by just us deliberating and complaining and worrying. We had to get some local city and government officials involved, talking with Bob Lutz and talking with different members of the city and the PFD board and GSI, Spokane Police Department, and trying to figure out like, where do we go from here? We can't just close our doors. We can't just all
not even go from here, but what is here?
Yeah.
I mean,
fair enough.
We didn't even know what here was.
Identify.
Yeah.
Step one. Right. And I think at that point, I mean, that was really early on. That was
April.
Yeah.
When we met. Yeah.
And I had just came back from getting insanely sick. Every time I was tested, negative.
Really?
I was, according to the clinic I went to, they did not have a COVID test yet. They had to contact UW to ask for instructions on how to swab and then send my results over to UW because that was the closest facility that was testing at the moment, and then send it back. And when they sent it back, I was already on the mend. But it was the sickest I've ever been in my entire life, right?
So
and I'll be the first to admit, I am a full grade Sally when I get sick. Right? Like I never get sick, but when I do, it's like a 747 crash.
Lights out.
Yeah, it's bad. There's everything. I'm the worst boyfriend, housemate, anything. I leave everything everywhere and I am a crybaby.
I can relate to that.
So I came off of that and I can't remember who reached out, if it was you or Mark or Jeremy, but we showed up to Bloomsday's headquarters and we all sat like this giant space.
It was strange.
It really was. It was like we were at some like, I don't know, meeting of the minds, and we were about to go to war.
Out of Braveheart. Yeah. Like this ginormous room, everyone's 15 feet apart, and we're all just staring at each other. It was
and meeting
weird.
people for the first time.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, it was really.
Everyone has to shout because we're in this huge room, right? So. Well, what happens if you do this?
It's like the clans all meeting together and coming together.
And I made the mistake of speaking too much. So then there was a lot of questions.
That's a constant mistake for you, Chad.
Oh, sorry.
I can relate to that too.
You can take it from here. Yep. So, I think what ended up happening from that is we had a meeting shortly after, and it was Matt, Mark, and I, and we talked about what we need to do from here and how we could, pivot in this time. I know that word has been overused, but it's the easiest word to explain what we did. And how do we advocate for our industry? Matt mentioned this a couple times earlier, as restaurant people look out for each other. And no longer was it rivalries that were unhealthy. It was all of us walking to the center of the street and shaking hands with the competition and saying, let's do this together. Let's find a solution. We're shut down. We have to find a way to still serve our community, continue to support our industry, and survive and make money.
Absolutely.
Right. So not only are we looking out for our neighbor, but we also have to look out for ourselves. And so you got Brian from Kraken Creative involved, and he ran the marketing side of things. And Matt and I did some outreach, trying to understand PPP, trying to understand EIDL, all these different grants.
4 or 5 different grants.
Yeah, how to fill them out. I know having conversations with you at 6 o'clock in the morning, like, dude, this isn't what I do. Right? Like I ended up hiring an assistant just to handle the paperwork.
Wow.
Because I just looked at it and went cross-eyed immediately. But yeah, that's kind of where it got started. And we started holding meetings weekly on Fridays at 8 o'clock in the morning at Brick West. And Brian quickly made a website for us, say509.com. And we started outreaching to different restaurant owners, bar owners, hotels, and saying like, hey, we're in this together. Let's figure it out. There's a way to survive this. We're not going to get completely shut down, but we have to do it very safe. Because the last thing that we want, and there was fear involved, right? Of L&I is handing out fines. Who's policing this? I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to get sued.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
For getting somebody sick, right? And those were all the real questions. Yeah. And then it just started growing.
So speaking of, getting sued and fines and that type of stuff, Matt, there's so many crazy stories you're hearing in the, everything's so sensationalized in the news right now. And you've got bar owners and restaurant owners that are opening up and, speakeasy style stuff going on right now. What was the difference, between what the group decided to do and how you guys decided to operate versus some of these, maybe call them rogue ventures that are out there opening up and doing their thing? What's kind of your thought on that?
First of all, there are no rogue ventures. If someone decides to open up and that's what's best for them, I support them and I wish them nothing but luck.
Agreed.
As long as they're being safe and
I didn't mean that with a negative connotation.
No, I'm not gonna poo-poo anybody that decides it's right for them and their business to open. Good for them, and I wish them nothing but success. But our group took a little different stance on that, where the stance we took is that COVID is a thing. We want to play by the rules because we don't want to lose our liquor licenses, and losing your liquor license is a real threat by that. So we just want to educate the public that if you come to our establishments, we're going to play by the rules, whatever our lovely Governor Jay Inslee says the rules are. We're going to be safe. We're going to still give a great experience, still give great food, still give great drink, but we're going to play by the rules. And we're going to promote ourselves and push ourselves, but whatever they tell us we have to do, we're going to do it.
And majority of people respect that.
Absolutely.
Right? That you have their best interests in your mind and your team's best interest in your mind, right? We're just providing a healthy environment. I think you're spot on. If a business feels that they need to do what they need to do to survive, I don't have anything bad to say about that, right? Would I do things differently? Absolutely. But I don't pay their bills.
Sure.
And I also believe that people have a choice, right? If a place is if a place is fully open,
still America,
I can walk in or I can not walk in.
Yeah.
And our choice of SHC is to follow the rules that have been given to us and try to do the best business we can under the current guidelines.
Speaking of the rules, and I don't know how much you guys want to go into
I'll interrupt you 1 second, Bruce. The other thing that frustrates me about this, though, is that the restaurants are getting picked on a little bit.
Absolutely.
A lot bit.
Yes.
We're the only ones that are truly shut down. Even gyms got to open today with inside exercising under some guidelines. The thing about restaurants is, and I think Chad would agree with me, that we are the rule followers.
Absolutely.
We're the ones that follow the rules. And I got this off a podcast from Joe Rogan. I'm not trying to rip it off as my own, but
now you got his mic.
I got his mic and his ideas. But there was two guys from LA who have big business down there, and they kept stressing the fact that they are the rule followers. When the health board walks in and says, I don't like that, we change it instantly.
Or you go out of business.
Or you go out of business. Everything we do is clean and sanitary and safe. And if it's supposed to be cold, it's colder than that. If it's supposed to be hot, it's warmer than that. And we follow all the rules, and we do everything necessary to run a safe business and provide a safe experience for our customers. And now we're being told that people can't dine indoors here. And so now what do? They're going to house parties. They're going to basements. They're going to private parties where there are no rules. There are no regulations.
And the numbers keep going up.
Our
restaurants are all shut down.
Yeah.
But guess what is wide open?
Walmart.
Costco.
Home Depot.
Target.
Yeah. I mean, just
my neighbor's house.
Lines and lines of people way over.
Or the outdoor spaces that are indoors but outdoors, which I think that's the definition of a building that's
I will fully own this.
Right?
I will fully own this. We have a tent at Brick West that is humongous.
I love it.
It's big. It meets all guidelines and regulations. In my opinion, there is zero difference from having a beer in my tent from having a beer inside of my establishment.
100%.
That tent cost me $9,500 a month.
What about the concept of wearing a mask into the restaurant and then taking it off while dining? I mean, obviously you can't eat food with a mask on. I mean, that's common sense. But really to be in a restaurant where I get up to use the restroom or as I'm walking in having a mask on, am I wrong to say that some of these rules seem like they're just not really well thought out?
I'm not a scientist. I don't think you're a scientist.
No.
I feel
but I'm using common sense.
I think the rules are reactive.
The rules are totally reactive, and
they need a scapegoat.
And we're it.
Yes.
We're it.
Yeah.
But if you follow the rules that were in place before we got shut down, if you walk into a place, you have a mask on. When you sit down with your group, you take your mask off.
Absolutely.
That table is 6 feet away from the next table.
Okay.
Right? 6 feet distance and everywhere you go. If you get up to go to the bathroom, you put your mask back on. When you come back down and sit down, you take your mask back off, which to me is no different than anywhere else in the world.
They're doing it in Texas. They're doing it in Arizona,
Florida,
Idaho.
Yeah. So
that's the thing that's mind blowing is we've got
right across the border.
There's an imaginary line 40 miles east of here.
40,
30,
right? Like we could get there in 10 minutes from here.
How fast
right?
we drive? Yeah.
Well, I drive a lot faster than most people, but I'll admit that.
You got a fast car.
Yeah, something needs to get my heart going. It's been cold this last couple of years, or this last year. So, no, that's exactly it. I hate to be the person who's like, oh, it's not fair, but it's not fair, right? And you know what? I think Matt and I will figure it out, right? We have. We got through this year. It's not came easy. There's been a lot of sleepless nights. There's been a lot of worry. There's been a lot more hard work with a lot less reward.
And a lot less employees.
Yes. But let's be honest. How much better do you run your businesses now than you did before?
Way more efficiently. I'm a better business person because of this. However, I feel bad for the people we've had to lay off who are not working because we're not as busy.
100%.
Absolutely. And these are the people that our governor is, supposedly so concerned for.
Well, these are the people that helped us build our businesses.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It was on their backs, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah, we all work as hard as they do, but
it wouldn't work without them.
No.
You couldn't do it.
Absolutely not.
If there's something you could say to, Mr. Inslee, Governor Inslee, because I know he's probably watching the podcast right now. He tunes in every week. Big fan. Yeah. What would you tell him, Chad?
For me, it's trust us as much as you're trusting the big corporations. We're paying taxes just as much. We have to follow rigid guidelines. We did before COVID even came around. Now we're following them even more. How many pairs of gloves or boxes of gloves do you go through now, right? I probably used more gloves in 2020 than I used in 2019, 2018, and 2017, right? And I am a rule follower. Always, I don't break the rules. You could contact the health department right now. Anybody for that matter could contact the health department right now and ask them my record at all of my restaurants. If anything falls below a 99, it doesn't exist. We fix all of our problems immediately. And in fact, I'm asking questions before the health department even gets there because I pride myself in having one of the cleanest kitchens. Notice not one of my kitchens is behind a door, behind a wall. I want people to see exactly what's going on. If I'm not afraid to show the dirtiest part of my kitchen, which is my dish pit typically, then I'm already taking care of all the responsibilities that I have. And if it comes down to that he doesn't think that we're policing people properly, once again, step into a Walmart.
I was at Target today, and there was nobody doing a clicker count like we had at my restaurants to make sure we had the proper capacity.
No sign in with a temperature check.
No sign in with the temperature check. There was people walking around no masks on. Nobody enforcing the mask rule. I could go down the laundry list of all the things that, and I'm not picking on Target. I love Target. I shop there all the time, but Target, Costco, Walmart, gyms, everybody else is allowed to open in some capacity with no real enforcement, no real check on them. Whereas we have Liquor Board, who's been great. I'm not picking on them. Labor and Industries, they seem okay. Police. I mean, there's all these people that are enforcing restaurants.
And you already had that prior to COVID.
Oh yeah,
It was already there.
just threw gas on the fire, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that there's any sort of ulterior motive to this? I mean, do you feel like there's any sort of ulterior motive going on with, regard to the pressure you guys are feeling as restaurants?
I'm not smart enough to answer that question. I'm not dialed into the right circles, but it sure feels like we're a scapegoat.
It feels like it. Yeah.
It sure feels like they have to do something. They have to blame somebody.
Absolutely.
They have to hang their hat on something they did to stop COVID, and it feels like we're the people that are getting the brunt of that.
The easiest
Numbers
target.
going up though.
Numbers going up. Yeah. Restaurants are not doing indoor seating.
Actually, how many was it? 2,500 plus restaurants in the state of Washington have closed permanently since COVID. So we've had 2,500 less restaurants, and the numbers keep climbing. I mean, to your point,
But
you could look at my grades.
yeah, and there's no data.
It was a
there's no
pleasure
data.
to have in class.
There's no data. There's no science that's ever been proven or shown that restaurants are the cause.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of contrary data from the Washington Hospitality Association, who's had our back from day one on this, showing that restaurants are less than 1% of the spread. So it feels like we're the scapegoats. It feels like we're being picked on. It feels like we're the easy target here.
So how big of a factor in, your decision to start looking at other markets like Boise? I know your heart's in Spokane, but how big of a factor is COVID and some of the rules and regulations that you guys are dealing with to start looking at other markets? I mean, the what I'm trying to get to is this something that is going to, really cause restaurateurs like you guys to not open up new businesses here and to really to slow down the spread of what this whole podcast is about?
No, what it's going to do, unfortunately, is provide opportunities for guys like Chad and myself and other restaurant groups who have the resources and the wherewithal to get through this when the mom and pop restaurants can't make it.
Absolutely.
Who we're trying to pull for, we're trying to root for, we want them to, but they're not going to make it. And there's going to be more opportunity in Spokane to provide some good dining and eating hospitality places for them.
How's that going to play out? Are we going to see, because, in the last 5 years, last 10 years, we've seen a lot of wonderful new restaurants come into play. I mean, restaurants are a really integral part of the community. And as far as, a neighborhood and development goes, one of the first things that you need in a place to start see some, gentrification and start to see some, increases in rents.
Well, it's part of our entertainment.
Absolutely.
Right? Like at the end of the day, like the PFD board, right? I don't know if anybody is familiar with that, but
PFD board, what is that?
So they manage
Public Facilities District.
Sure. Okay.
They manage the convention center, the arena, the podium that they're building right now, which is a sports complex. The Opera House, all those different like big venues that bring in Hamilton, that bring in, the
concerts,
all the concerts, all those things
Absolutely.
that bring all of the money to
Into our city.
Spokane and support all of the businesses, right? So the cooler projects that we have in our core, right, our city and even the surrounding areas, the cooler those things are, the better entertainment we get, the bigger concerts we get, right? And so restaurants, bars, hotels are a very big part of it. Very, very big part of it. And we can't really grow without those. And there are things that have been staples here for a really long time that are going away, that are really sad. But at the same time, I think it's breathing some new opportunity. There's a positive with everything. It just sucks. I don't think there's anything. And I don't think I think you were looking at Boise far before COVID came along.
Oh, this was
absolutely.
This was the little nudge I needed to finally do it. Yeah.
And Boise has been, flexing
booming
its
for a while,
muscles for a long time.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, so.
But Boise's kind of Spokane's little brother with less restrictions, less red tape.
Yeah. Little brother?
Yeah.
Heck yeah, little brother.
Yeah.
Nice.
Little brother's alwa's cooler
Represent.
too. You know what I mean? Like
I don't know.
a little bit more style, right? They've watched, they've paid attention, and they've been like,
they had someone
we're
pave
gonna do
the way.
this a touch different.
Yeah. That's a little bit easier.
But we have an incredible gym. I mean, like I was just on a Zoom call today with let's see who was on the call. It was Kate Hudson from Visit Spokane, Jim Van Loben-Sells from Arborcrest and Mount Spokane, and they were prepping us for a conversation that we're going to have with Microsoft.
Tell me about it.
I don't know what's happening out of it because I don't pay attention enough, but we're going to be speaking to 1,000+ Microsoft employees and execs about why Spokane is so, for lack of better terms, badass
And perfect.
and it is.
Yeah.
Dude,
Your
and it's the
nation, they're
best.
perfect.
Dude, 20 years ago, right? I couldn't get out of this city fast enough,
I remember that.
right? And
What year did you graduate from Gonzaga?
Gonzaga, 2011.
Okay, so I'm that much older than you. But I remember Ray, my old partner and I at Fast Eddie's, and we would joke how Gonzaga kids would come to Fast Eddie's, they would graduate, and then they were gone. See you later, sayonara.
Yeah.
And-
Not the case.
No,
No.
a few of us, Chad, myself, a few other restaurant guys, we've tried to, like he said, go to other communities, other areas, and bring their concepts, their ideas into Spokane, and they've worked.
Yeah.
Spokane's embraced it. And now when people graduate from Gonzaga or Eastern or Whitworth, they think twice about leaving because there's a
Absolutely.
scene here. There's something to do. There's something fun to go to. They can try a great lobster roll, which you could never get in Spokane before, right? They can go to one of my pubs and get Siamese street noodles, which was never available in Spokane before. So something as simple as that will
Feast World Kitchen.
so cool.
Freaking rad is that?
Why didn't we think of that?
I don't know.
So cool.
It's really irritated.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are the train guys, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
They come up in every podcast. We got to get them on here.
Dude, they are
Daisy.
incredible.
So
that was
good.
who else was on there? Ginger
We got to
Ewing.
get them. Ginger and
Ginger was on there,
Yeah.
and
Luke Baumgartner.
Yep.
Super incredible, and the events that we have here, right? We in the last couple of years we have a food and wine style of a festival. You know, we've got World Class Resort just across the way. We have so much outdoor activity here. Spokane is truly a gem, and not
So-
just for the people who live here.
It's funny. So pick Bloomsday, pick Hoop Fest, pick the event, right?
Oh yeah.
Everybody used to come home for those events.
Yeah.
Now a lot of those people are calling this home. They don't have to leave. They're already here.
And people are still coming from all around.
And they're still
Hoop
coming from
Fest,
all around,
People
yeah.
come from everywhere.
For sure.
So, Matt, what do you see let's talk about the future of Spokane. What do you see in the next 5 years, in Spokane, taking into account the economy, taking into account all the development that's coming in right now? What's it going to be like in 5 years from now? I mean, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but
I'm very bullish on Spokane.
I love it.
I think that I think you're going to see a lot of people from Seattle and the west side of the state wanting to get out of the big city, wanting to get away from the restrictions, the COVID, all that kind of stuff. I think you're going to see a lot of people from Portland. I have friends from California who wanted to move to Phoenix, too expensive, came up to Coeur d'Alene, too expensive, and they're moving in Spokane because it's affordable.
Absolutely.
It's relatable. It's comfortable. You can get a quarter of an acre in Spokane for a very affordable price, and you can have your 3 kids, your 2 dogs, your ATVs, your snowmobiles, whatever it is you're into. You can afford to do that here, and I think that's a quality of life that
doesn't exist very many.
doesn't exist in very many other places.
Yeah.
And
And it's cool.
it's cool.
It is cool.
If you would have asked me even a year ago that I would be able to hire 3 of some of the most talented chefs out of California to move here and help me with my projects, I would tell you you're crazy.
What do you pay them?
Too much. No, just kidding.
Fair
Not
enough.
enough.
Not enough?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, between and Wendy's not from California, but between Wendy, Hannes Coven, Chef Gina, and Chef Xavier, $210,000 a year.
Wow.
Great.
And we need
and
more
they can
chefs
afford
like
to
that.
live comfortably here on that.
Exactly.
Very.
Yes.
So what new concepts?
Because I know what those guys were making down in San Diego.
Yeah,
in Los
about
Angeles.
$10,000 or more and spending $50,000 more a year.
That's the thing, because they're spending so much more. So, Chad, what concepts do you think we need to see in Spokane? Like, what does Spokane need from a concept? We're not going to get your secrets.
I would say more ethnic
Hey, Dayton,
concepts.
cut the mics. We'll
More ethnic concepts.
Okay.
Yeah. And more regional concepts.
Okay.
Right? So, okonomiyaki. How rad would that be? Right?
What are you?
What's
is
the
that?
dumpling bar in
Onomaki.
Seattle that crushes it?
Oh, DTF, Din Tai Fung.
Din Tai Fung. Yeah.
Yeah. A dumpling house.
Oh, God.
Better ramen. And I know, was it Little Noodle?
Little Noodle.
I haven't tried them yet.
They're great. King of Ramen. They do a good job. But yeah.
But just, I have
the spot
a ramen.
that Chad and I were looking at downtown, and I wanted nothing to do with owning the restaurant. Like I was going to be a big real estate guy, right? And Chad walked in and he goes, I see an oyster bar here. And I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm in. No, I'm in.
I love oysters. We need an oyster
but-
bar. That would be great.
Yeah, someday.
Pardon my French.
We'll get back there.
Yeah.
But, I think here's the thing about Spokane. The buildings here are so rad.
They are. They are.
So rad.
Because you talk about Boise,
Brick.
they tear them down.
Yeah.
Beams.
Yeah.
Wood.
Catacombs.
Yeah.
We'll take you downstairs. We'll take you downstairs when we get done with this.
You're right. And Boise, they do tear them down. And I'm not going to get debate whether that's
Don't go
good
in
or
the
bad, but they literally level everything and build up brand new.
Yeah, and it's cool, but God, just this block alone, which is kind of untouched, you got a lot of history, and you got that over on the west side that you guys have been able to do some stuff with. There's a lot of pockets in
I'll
Spokane
tell you
that are pretty cool.
what I want to see.
Yeah.
I want to see more micro concepts,
Okay.
right?
Agreed.
The Jewish deli.
Smaller.
Like the legit Philly cheesesteak joint,
Yeah.
right? Like the legit one. Not this stop with the fancy crap.
So how do you get that? How do you get? Because I'm assuming as a
Stop
chef.
trying to please everyone.
Okay, but as
Enough
a
with the
chef.
Chinese restaurants with spaghetti and French fries.
Okay, but how do you bring that authentic?
Two things.
That authentic.
You need to go
concept.
smaller. Small concept, small rent,
Yeah.
a niche. And then the tricky part, and especially with COVID, is you need urban density. You need people living
Around
downtown
the
that
area.
will walk, that will support, that
Sure.
work. And that's the tricky part of this whole deal.
Most chefs and restaurateurs feel like they have to have a giant establishment.
Absolutely.
Low overhead,
Marquee
high
lounge.
profit.
Well, I can
Learned that
tell
one
you
the
from
hard
a
way.
real estate standpoint, the smaller, if I were to open a restaurant, I would want 1,000 square feet, maybe.
Or less.
Right?
Yeah, smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
High Tide Lobster Bar, first one, 480 square foot. Zona Blanca, 620 square
And what did you guys do day one?
Oh, man.
12,000?
No. We did 12 grand in our first week, and we were only open 3 days. Yeah.
Pretty close.
It was bananas, right? And it was so amazing how pissed at people were at me for selling out. And I was like, I can show you my refrigeration. Oh yeah, it's right behind me. Like literally behind me.
I was
just
pissed
no
because you
way.
were smarter than me, but I wasn't pissed because you sold out.
No. So talk to me about. So let's talk about. You sell
goes
out
both
3
ways.
days. What about you look at places like Chick-fil-A, something as simple as a chicken sandwich. It's what about this stuff? Like what are your thoughts on? I drive by that place every day, and there is
Before we
still
destroy
a
Chick-fil-A,
45-minute.
before we destroy them,
Yeah,
I wanted to be on the record that they're actually locally owned. It's a franchise.
absolutely.
That's the Spokane people locally own. So
And they have to work there. They have to manage and operate the business.
now we can destroy that.
Okay.
Well, but here's the thing. They market really, really well.
And for what they
think
do,
about
they do a good
how long
job.
they took to build.
There was Chick-fil-A ads in
Forever.
Spokane for 7 to 10 years before they opened.
Really?
Oh yeah, they were all over TV.
Talk about building buzz. That's a long-term game.
Dave and Buster's advertised in Spokane for about 10 years.
And they
decided
didn't come.
not to open here. You will never see a Dave and Buster's ad on TV anymore. I mean that's marketing, right?
It's all marketing.
Yeah, totally.
It's a common brand that people have
and
tried other places.
here's the other thing.
Convenience thing.
Fast food corporations, they know about Spokane. Spokane was a fast food nation for so long.
Sure. Oh yeah.
It was the only long-standing restaurants. I mean, look at Jack in the Box. They killed people in the early 90s in Spokane, and they stuck around.
They killed people?
They had a
E. coli
a slight
breakout.
food issue.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Massive.
That's right.
Right?
That's right. Yeah.
A massive one. And I believe it was the Valley location. But no, here's the thing. It's so convenient, right? We're a family town though, right? Like you have working class individuals who have families at a very young age, and it is affordable convenience. You can't, I mean, here's the thing. I'm not going to knock a big, a business like that. I mean, we all know I love Zips. Anybody who's ever heard me talk
Zips
about
is
anything,
amazing.
I absolutely love Zips.
On the record, Chad White wants to do a lobster burger at Zips.
Get at me.
Zips. Let's set it up.
No, I'm serious.
You saw it here on Catalyst Podcast.
I've been to Shake Shack. I've been to In-N-Out Burger. I've been all over the place. The double bacon cheeseburger at Zips is the best burger in the country. Fight me.
I'll give you that.
I can't throw a punch, but I could take
We're
like
supposed
12.
to do, sorry, the elbow.
Well, I'll wash my
Covered
hands
elbow.
afterwards, you filthy animal. So, no, I just feel like it's interesting that people get so angry at businesses that have done an incredible job building themselves. All these businesses started as a small project at some
Yeah,
point.
Chick-fil-A at one time was one joint.
Yeah, you didn't know about Chick-fil-A 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Did you not? Did you?
You didn't.
I didn't know about it 15 years ago until I started traveling. Because I was 15 years old.
And I am so in love with our city and so in love with our local concepts. I think most people would tell you that I care as much about other people's restaurants as I do about my own. I'm constantly sharing other people's content. I'm spending my money in their restaurants. Yes, I know I buy Zips, but Zips is also a locally owned restaurant.
But here's the thing. Let me interrupt you. Zips has a niche, right?
100%.
And you're going to spend $5 and get a fantastic burger, right? A good burger.
I've never
Yes.
spent
good-
only $5 at Zips on a burger. They're a high class burger.
If you go to Chick-fil-A, you're going to spend $6 and get a really good chicken sandwich. If I go to one of your joints and I get a fucking amazing chicken sandwich, I'm going to spend more than that, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm not picking on Chick-fil-A. If you want a $5 to $6 chicken sandwich experience, Chick-fil-A is where you're going to go.
Yeah.
That's
And they
where-
spent decades leveraging and building relationships with large vendors, purchasing their own farmland and raising product at a lower cost level so they could serve a $6 chicken sandwich. You can't serve a $6 chicken sandwich in Spokane
with that
if you're a
being-
small concept.
Correct. With that being said, though, you go to any one of my establishments, my Nashville hot chicken sandwich is going to be $12 or more. But I guarantee you it kicks the shit out of a Chick-fil-A.
Because the bun costs more than the entire sandwich at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
But you know, we're talking about totally different things here because, you know, Chick-fil-A is a convenience thing. But I'm talking about the idea of with COVID right now, you know, fast food restaurants are loving this. They are absolutely loving this because they are not getting picked on like you guys.
I'm going to ask
they
a
are not
question
getting
that you haven't
hammered.
asked.
Please, what's the question?
What is the formula
Yeah.
for a current non-fast food restaurant to survive during COVID?
And that's where I was going. That's exactly where I was going. Thanks,
What do you
Chad.
think the formula is? I don't think there's one. I think there's multiple, but what do you think the main one is
The formula for a current non-fast food restaurant.
to survive during COVID?
PPP, EIDL, shut my doors. No, I'm joking. It's being creative. It's take-home family meals. It's convenience for people.
That's what I was getting to.
It's providing an experience for them at home that they're not going to get without you. What I mean by that is we sold for Thanksgiving. We sold smoked turkey meals. Chad probably did something similar, right?
And they were good. People loved it.
They were better than anything you would ever cook at your own house.
I cooked a pretty good prime rib.
We'll debate it. But my point is that you have to pivot and you have to provide a meal to somebody that they can pick up or you'll deliver to their house that is better than something they can do at their own house.
And the convenience in itself. I mean, like I said, I'm
100%.
joking. I cooked a great prime rib, but My daughter went up and climbed up the oven and busted that thing. I found out 2 days before that I had to cook it. I had to go to Costco. I had to buy a Traeger. I spent $1,000.
And Bruce,
Should've just
And it was a pain in the ass.
Bruce,
I should have called you
here's my
guys and
point.
got it done.
And maybe you're the one exception, but
No, I'm not.
99 out of 100 people that go to Costco, buy a rack of ribs, buy a Traeger, buy Traeger's pellets,
All in
hook it
one
up,
day.
hook it up, and then cook it. Their ribs are going to be half as good if you went to TT's and spent less money overall and got fantastic ribs to take home and make for yourself.
I wouldn't compete ribs with TT's. There's no way.
But
Because that's my
there's
favorite
a level
barbecue
of
joint in that
everybody
place.
learned, not everybody, but a lot of people learned how to bake bread during COVID. They learned how to smoke a brisket during COVID, smoke ribs, and so on and so forth. But you're not going to make ribs every single day. At some point, there's the convenience of the fact that you don't have to cook and clean anymore.
Absolutely.
Right. And so for us, just like what you said, it was so important that every single one of my restaurants had a family meal pack that was easy for people to purchase, whether it was online ordering, a call in, minimizing the obstacles for them to spend money.
Absolutely.
Right. And being the loudest person in the room. You don't have to provide the best deal.
You've said a lot of smart things, but that combo is the smartest thing you've ever said. Ease and loudness.
Yep.
How to make it easy and how to scream out loud how easy it is to do so.
I love it.
That's it.
That comes down to convenience because I get to hear it. I don't have to seek it out.
Tomorrow I'll have a shirt that says easy.
I get to
and loud.
hear it and I don't have to seek it out. And it's easy to get
I'm
to.
a large.
Heard.
I like that. That's great. So, that's good stuff. What do you guys see, future of Spokane? We've got time for about one more question here. Future of Spokane. We've talked about concepts. We've talked about a little bit about real estate. What do you guys see as far as people coming into town as far as new competition? You've talked about Microsoft a little bit. I mean, you're looking at Boise a little bit. Do you see more chefs coming to Spokane? We've talked about people moving here.
Me too.
Yeah. You hope so. But do you see them coming? Are they coming now?
New York, San Francisco, Chicago. Come here.
Austin,
Spokane.
San Diego,
Please.
Portland, Seattle.
Bring it.
Yeah. You're not worried about the competition. You want to see it. It builds us up.
Yeah, all boats float. What?
Rising
tides rise all boats.
Rising tides lift all boats. Something like that.
It's so important.
Between the three of us and the whiskey.
It will create a demand.
Absolutely.
I look at the guys at Wooden City. Fun.
Killing it.
That is one of my
Killing
favorite
it.
restaurants. Favorite restaurants right now. I got a
Best
group of
addition
guys.
to the Spokane restaurant scene since
In
you
2020.
came. Since you
Absolutely.
came. Honestly, since you came.
Well, thank you.
No, since you came.
Agreed.
That's the
Agreed.
best addition.
I think Peter over at Gander and Ryegrass is doing an incredible job.
I need to check that out.
Used to be here, worked for Jeremy back in the day, took over Jeremy's spot. Absolutely crushing it. I think Austin Conklin's doing a great job at IBK. But dude, Wooden City, their chefs, their concept is so good.
Where you're going from the second you walk in the door to you're seated to you get a cocktail to you get your food to when you leave to when you check out to when you exit, nails it.
All I hope is that it inspires,
Yeah.
because it's inspired me. Right. So I'm going to say that first before I piss a lot of people off. I hope it inspires existing restaurants in this city to step up their game.
Absolutely.
To be frank, what they're doing at Wooden City is what I envisioned you and I doing at the spot we talked about. Different concept, but I mean,
It's going.
they kill it though. Wooden City, man. I mean,
I'll put my 2 cents in as the non-restaurateur here. We had a standing Wednesday night reservation at Wooden City for about 3 or 4 months before COVID, and me and a group of guys that I get together with. And I'll tell you, the best thing about Wooden City is the staff.
Yep.
The staff there is so on point.
I heard a rumor that they brought the staff in from
They
all out
did
of
bring
town.
the staff in. The staff followed them from Tacoma, from Portland, Seattle.
Yeah.
No, they're not in Seattle. I don't think. Are they
No,
in
but
Seattle?
they hired people from Seattle.
From
as
Seattle,
well.
but yes. So some of the gals though, they follow them there, and we've got a standing reservation. We had an event we were trying to do, and with COVID, it's so hard to do it. We went in, we were having dinner, and complaining. They're like, just have us. We'll come to your place. They came. They brought all the food. They catered it in. They brought 3 waitresses that killed it. We've done 3 events. Wow. They bring the waitresses in. You feel like you're in Wooden City because the staff there is so bought in, and they follow those people all over the world. They'll go to Beijing next if they have to. It's amazing. That's my 2 cents.
Incredible culture, incredible leadership, incredible quality, and consistency.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we're getting pretty close here. Is there anything you guys want to leave us with?
I want to go for another hour, Bruce. Let's keep going.
We can keep going. Well,
Bruce, how many more questions you got?
We got plenty of whiskey here.
I'm telling you that one, I did a podcast like 7 months ago where it went till 4 a.m. I'm ready to go.
4 a.m.
You got another one of those?
4 a.m.
Bruce, I'm also.
I did not bring another one.
The next time I do this, I want somebody less qualified than me instead of more qualified than me. I feel.
You're ridiculous.
I feel less of a man sitting next to Chad.
Did you just touch your chest because I have the biggest man?
I gave you the choice. I gave you the choice of like whoever you wanted to bring, right?
Yeah, I did. I chose Chad.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you did.
I did.
I'm glad
honored.
you did.
I'm honored.
My choices were Ronald McDonald and Chick-fil-A.
Oh, not Santa Claus? Sorry.
All right, guys.
Probably not what Bruce was looking for an ending.
Yeah.
No, we're good. We're good.
Bruce,
that wraps
thank you
it
so
up.
much.
Yeah.
Dude. Such a great.
Thank you for coming out.
Great time.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bruce.
My girlfriend will appreciate that this ended as early as it did.
This is just a podcast. We still have to do outtakes.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Ooh.
All right. That's the show. Thanks, guys. Catalyst podcast number 6. We'll see you guys next week on the next show. Cheers.